Hi golfers, Nick here for Nick Taylor Golf. It's Friday, so welcome to another lesson on golf tips. This week on golf tips, we're going to talk about the hand path in the golf swing. We're going to talk about some key moves that you can do, very simple moves that you can do to help you improve your hand path, to help you swing on plane, to help you hit more consistent shots, to strike the ball better and play better golf. To help explain in detail today's video, we're going to be using GOLFTEC's OptiMotion technology. You can see how these cameras are picking up my body positions here in the swing, and as I swing this golf club, it's going to be measuring how I move my body. It's going to be measuring how I rotate my shoulders and my hips. It's going to measure how I bend forward and back. It's going to measure how I tilt from side to side and also how I sway from side to side. So we're going to be using this data to help explain these movements. We're going to explain what one of the biggest issues I see amateur golfers make. I'm going to show you what the best players do to help them swing the club on plane. First up, golfers, I'm just going to hit my normal shot here. I've just got 7-iron, so just going to be my standard sort of golf swing here. So you can see on the screen there, reasonably straight ball flight there, just pushed a little bit to the right of the line, pitched around 170 yards. So just with a 7-iron here. Pretty standard shot. I'd expect that to be slightly inside so out, 4 or 5 degrees. I expect it to be 4 or 5 degrees downwards. So 4 degrees into out, as you can see there, 7 degrees downwards. Slightly closed face gives me that kind of push draw. So pitched at 168, club head speed at 93 miles an hour. So in today's video, I'm going to be explaining how I move in the backswing to help my hand path. Then what I do as I start down and all the way through to the finish, I'm going to show you a drill to help you move your body better in the golf swing to help you improve your hand path. To help explain these movements, you can see on the screen here I've got my swing from both angles. I've got the shoulder numbers on the left hand side screen, so we've got the shoulder turn and the shoulder tilt, and then on the right hand side there we've got the hip turn and the hip tilt. So as we move the club back here, we're going to be taking a look at those movements. First up here at setup, what's key is you'll see how, as I set up to the golf ball, how my left foot here is turned out. My hands are forward, I've got my weight slightly favouring the left side at setup, so moving my hands forward and my weight forward, and that's important to help you start moving this club inwards around your body. Setting the weight forward and the hands forward is going to give you that first initial ability to start moving those hands inwards around your body. I see one of the biggest mistakes here at setup where golfers are more 50-50 or even on their right hand side at setup with the handle back. That helps promote more of an outside swing path. So by setting up back with the weight and the handle back, you're more likely to swing more out to in doing that. Whereas by setting it the weight forward, hands forward, it's much easier to then start swinging on the inside here. So we're going to take a look at those movements, and we're also going to be looking at how I use my lower body to help me keep this club on plane. So you can see here we've got the knee flex here at 17 degrees. So just measuring how much this knee is bent here at setup. We've got the shoulder turn there 8 degrees open, which is pretty standard, and the hips pretty square at 0. So let's have a look at the first kind of movements here as we go back. So by the time we get up to position 2 here, so roughly where the club shaft is parallel to the ground, you can see how my shoulder turn now is 43 degrees closed and my hip turn 25. So you can see how much I've rotated at this point. The fact that these numbers agree means that I'm turning within the range of what the best players would do. Also note here, just going back to the beginning, the knee flex. So 17 degrees knee flex, very quickly that straightens to around 4 degrees here at position 2 where the shaft is parallel. So if we continue this swing upwards here, you'll see how the knee flex here goes to 2 degrees of flex. So you can see how much straighter this is. You can see how much this is bent forward in the backswing here. So you're continually changing my knee flex here. You can see from the front view how my hips have turned inside this line, so I'm keeping my weight to the left. That's also going to help me swing the club inwards. And then as we continue here to the top of the swing, you can see how my knee flex now has actually gone to 6. So I've got 6 degrees bent now. So remember, it was about 1 degree just past P3 where the left arm's parallel, and then it goes to about 6 degrees. So I've started to regain some bend there. My shoulder turn there is at 83 degrees. You can see that from the front view. You can see my hips have turned 51, which means that I've actually turned a bit more than where the tour players would be. The key things here are also the tilting. So the shoulder and the hip tilt. You can see my shoulder tilt at 33 degrees and my hip tilt there at 12 degrees. So the key thing is here that I've changed my knee flex, I've moved the hands upwards, so we start that again, upwards up the shaft line there, continually moves inwards my hands as I get to the top of the swing there. I've got my arm there pretty much across the line of my shoulders and I've tilted around 33 degrees. Then as we start down into the downswing here, you start to see how my knee flex regains that bend, starting to turn my body. By the time I get to position 6 here, you see my hip turn now is back to 0. Shoulder turn still slightly closed at this point, but you can see how my knee here is coming back to roughly where it was at setup. I'm just going to add in one more line here. So I'm just going to put a line here just on my right knee, just to help explain this. So if we look at that swing going back, you can see how that straightens. And then as it comes down, I bend forward. I don't really bend past that line on my right knee there. My hips are pushing forward. I extend my legs. You can see how my legs are straightening and pushing forward as I go through into the finish there. So knee flex is really key here to help move the hand path inwards, and then I don't bend past that point as I come down and really push forward with my hips, which is a kind of a key move here to help keep that club more inwards and on plane, and keep that head pretty stable by tilting the shoulders and the hips. Take a look at that overview there. You can see how I was moving my shoulder down, hands are moving inwards, my knee flex changed very quickly. You saw how that knee flex almost was dead straight, that right leg, by the time I reached kind of position 3, but by the time it continued to the top, I started to regain some bend in that right leg, just a little bit, because that's me just getting ready to then start to move that pressure to the left more as I start down. The key thing is here, I'm not swaying my body, I'm tilting my shoulders and tilting my hips. Now, a lot of golfers come to me and they're taught to, in their swing, keep the knee bent and kind of turn against that. Now, some players, some of the best players in the world will regain the right knee bend as much as they can in the swing, but some of those players have struggled with back issues, and it's not really friendly on the back by keeping this knee bent, right? You can still coil up and create some sort of turn or power, but it's not as free as allowing that to straighten. Another thing this does, as you straighten this leg, it helps you kind of tilt your hips, which helps tilt your shoulders, which then helps you hit the ground. That's important, right? We've got to hit this ground. If I start keeping this knee bent, what happens is my hips turn more level, my shoulders turn more level, it's harder to turn, and then it's harder then to hit the ground. So the knee flex will help you rotate, take stress off your body, and help you strike the ground, okay? So as you swing back here, we saw how I had 17 degrees of bend, and then it progressively straightened, and that's helping me tilt my shoulders and my hips. We saw how the hands started to move up the shaft line as well, and that's important as well. If you just grab a club and you have your feet straight, knees turned in, keep the knee flex the same, and just move the golf club, you'll find that it's much harder to move the hands in. You'll find the hands will start to go upwards. It's harder to rotate that way. Now, I've got a good drill for this because sometimes just trying to change these things becomes quite difficult if you're not used to doing it, but I'm going to show you a drill that's really going to help you make these movements a lot easier. So as I set up here, I've got my feet, knees turned out, my hands forward as I set up, so I'm going to set up like that. What I'm going to do this time for this drill is I'm just going to pull this right foot back, and then I'm going to straighten my leg a little bit. So already now I've closed my hips somewhat, that's helped me close my shoulders, and that's going to be making it much easier for me to move these hands inwards as I swing. So just moving this foot back a bit straighter on the leg. So I'm going to try and do kind of my normal swing, but just from a different setup position here. Now the key thing is when you work on this, you'll see how there's kind of a gap here between my legs here. This knee bent's the same as it normally is. This is a bit straighter. I'm going to try and straighten this the most I can in the backswing to help me turn my hips and move my hands in. Then as I come down, I'm going to really try and keep this leg as straight as possible and try and push off. We saw on the video there how my knee didn't bend past where it started as I came down. Now some players do that and it helps you rotate. The problem with that is you see that more in slices that bend that knee and it starts to move that hand path and club path more outside. So I'm just going to try and keep that leg straight and push off into the finish here. So this leg's going to be a little bit straighter than normal, foot's pulled back, so it should make me, or help me swing more inside here with the club path. So let's have a look. Okay, so slight push out to the right there, so face was a bit open, or more open than normal. It was actually a couple of degrees closed there, so I did swing about 8-9 degrees into out there. I was around 4 degrees the first time, so definitely helped me swing more inside. So what we're going to do now is take a look at my swing and just look at my setup there on the video in a bit more detail, just to see how my knee flex did help me there swing the club a little bit more on the inside. So taking a look at these swings side by side, you can see how at setup there I've just brought on the turn of the hips and the knee flex there, and you can see that I'm slightly more closed, like 1 degree closed more when my foot's pulled back, and you can see about 4 or 5 degrees straighter with that right leg. Now because of that first initial move here, if we look on the video here, you can see how my hands do move more inwards under that line now. So that's a little bit too much, and that's why I did swing like 8-9 degrees into out, which is actually a little bit too high. You want to be swinging like 4 or 5 degrees into out. So for me, this drill probably is probably not needed. I've already swing on a pretty good plane, but this is really to show you guys that by moving that foot back, straightening that leg more, it's going to give you that space then to move that hand path more inwards, and then you can see on the way down the club just drops below that white line, so you can just see it just goes a little bit more on the inside. So we're going to take a look at this swing from both viewpoints as well. So you can see that set up here, my hands are forward from the front view, or weight's on the left. We know the hands move more inwards, and you can see how I'm keeping that leg pretty straight and then pushing forward off that leg into the finish. So I'm not bending down too much as I come down into the downswing. That's, like I said, that's going to help me turn, but it's not going to help me move my hips forward. It's key that once you get the hand path moving inwards, you have to then regain that bend somewhat, but not past where it started. That's also going to help you push your hips forward towards a target. That's also key to help you swing on plane and draw the golf ball. If you're bending that knee as you come down too much and turning, like I said before, that's going to move your hand path more outside to in and take you off plane. So key thing is there, guys, if you don't get your hands inwards enough in the backswing, you don't tilt your hips enough, you don't tilt your shoulders enough, this is a really good drill to work on, just develop that feel. So I'd suggest hitting shots using this drill to get that feel, and then gradually just get that foot back in closer to square the stance up. Now some players do play with the foot slightly back, nothing wrong with that. Sometimes I play my right foot back, and that just helps me move those hands inwards and tilt my body. Like I don't play like that necessarily, just slightly inwards. So there's nothing wrong if you just set up with that foot slightly back, if that helps you on the golf course. But the key thing really is just to use that drill to develop that feel and see what happens to the ball flight, see how that feels. That if you can start swinging the hands more inwards, it's going to feel more powerful and probably more consistent as well. So thanks for watching, golfers. Hopefully you enjoy the video. If you've got any comments on that, post in the box below. If you don't already, please follow me on my other social media platforms, and I'll see you again next week for another video.